Well, hello, this is High Priestess Jamila. How are y'all doing? So, this is going to be my Tuesday spiritual video in the spirit of Aries. Yes, thank you, Aries, the god. Okay, and I wanted to come and inform you guys the top reasons why your men's is, or for the men, the women's is giving you a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, cheating, maybe possibly being abusive, just being kind of ambiguous, okay? And essentially, possibly, you know, there being a lot there between the two of you guys, but then things kind of, you know, not being good, okay? Especially if you're dealing with somebody that is verbally, emotionally abusive. Now, a common factor of this is what reality are you living in? Okay. What reality are you living in? Are you living within a paradox, right? Paradoxes of your reality can be created by people, maybe possibly the town you live in, maybe possibly your parents, maybe possibly your grandparents. It really depends on what reality you are born in, okay? So that would be a simple reason, okay? You needing to reality jump, timeline jump, okay? And you may be in that certain reality for various purposes, and it could be because of your purpose, right? But it can also be for someone else's purpose, okay? Usually, typically, it's going to be for, I'm not going to get into that, okay? Yeah, not on here, okay? The second reason why you may be having problems with the men's is that someone has cursed you, okay? There may be a curse on you to where love is very difficult for you. Again, this goes sometimes in unison with the first reason, to where, like, all of the men in your reality are just bat shit crazy, okay? And but it's also about, the reality that you live in and what you're used to seeing, okay? And there are factually some people that are used to seeing bad men, bad women in their reality. I'm going to use myself as an example. Um, I grew up with decent men, okay? I grew up seeing decent men, and it was because of my grandmother. My grandmother did not have men around that were bad, right? That was beating women, doing things to children. Those are not the type of men that my grandmother copulated with, okay? And, then my grandfather was not like that, okay? He was a very honorable man. And so growing up, I was raised in a reality where that stuff didn't happen, okay? Now, let's say that you have done all of the work and you've reality jumped and you have done a lot of things, right, to possibly bring a decent person into your life. Okay. Even still, what would be the third and top reason why a man is all messed up, or a woman, is because of death magic, death wishes. Okay. So, death magic and death wishes is pretty universal. Even if a person switched realities, made their reality better, that still doesn't mean that they're not carrying certain death workings on them. One very popular one is coming from religion. There are several verses in the Bible that wishes death and destruction and sickness upon an individual. Believe it or not, death and destruction and sickness very often is bestowed upon people that are innocent. You don't have to be a guilty person to have death thrown at you. You don't. It's the reality of the situation. Okay. But if chances are, probably about, I would say 80% of the men that are possibly even going to be eligible bachelors, or eligible husbands rather, they mostly do have death magic done on them. Okay. And so that's why things are kind of weird, and they seem to be fighting, having a lot of confusion within themselves. And, that's how that ends up happening. Most of them have death magic put on them, even if they are a good dude. Somebody at some point has put death around them. It's very, very, very common. In fact, as a practitioner that does work for people, I can tell you that probably 80% of my clients that I assist, in particular with doing cleanses and curse removals, 99% of the curses that I am removing from people have death elements in them. As a high priestess, am I afraid of this? No, we are constantly surrounded by death. It's sort of like a part of the universal reality, okay? And so a lot of times, even if you meet the right person, more than likely what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to know how to remove that death magic or death black magic from them. Okay. Because it's gonna be there, and to what level or degree would depend on the actions and the doings of that man. If he is an upstanding guy, if he has a certain level of purity about himself, then he more than likely is not going to be as afflicted by it. However, most of them have it. Most of them. And some of them have it at various levels and degrees. Now, we live in a world, as a totality, where witchcraft, which is essentially the answer to removing death magic from people and relieving them of this. However, most of the world is taught that witchcraft is evil. So, this is what can make it extremely difficult, which is why they usually come to you with some level of brokenness, is because of that. So, most of the men that you meet most of the men that you talk to are going to have death around them. Some of them have death curses on them to where negativity just comes through them. It just flows through them. And so yeah, that is the reason why you may be having problems with that person. And depending on how it has afflicted that person is how it's going to affect you. So typically it starts to show itself within about a month or two of you meeting that person. You start getting signs of this person having death curses on them. And basically it's important to reverse those curses off of them and to banish them. Okay. A lot of people are very, very afraid of doing that. A lot of people are miseducated about that. And, that's how you end up going through what you're going through. That's why there's a lot of hurt women out there that just feel like all men are no good. They're very bitter. And then, a lot of them, since a lot of them do have death magic on them, you sleep with them and you're carrying a lot of that burden with you. Okay? Because you've slept with them, which is why it is so shameful and disgraceful for a man to show disappreciation for any woman. Because the woman, she kind of neutralizes that negativity. And so it's a disgrace and a shame for a man to be evil to her. However, depending on what type of death curse is on them, and again, depending on how pure his soul is, he may be somebody that is kind of impossible to deal with. But then again, he may be somebody that you can deal with. You want to be around that person all the time. I think that it's important for people to understand this, okay? And some of them, it's so bad to where that's why they end up unaliving the woman. With them having that on them, those spirits are going to either haunt them all the time or intermittently. They may come in when it's a dark moon. They may come in when it's a full moon. It may be a certain date, a certain energy. They may come in whenever you're having sex with the man. It depends on what the death curse is about. My point is that for most of you guys, a death curse is going to have to be reversed off of that man. Okay? Now that's the truth. Okay? All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure that you hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and visit divineservicesapothecary.com.